Welcome to Sports Talk 101. I'm your host, Chris Centennial. Today I'm in the home of WWF, IWF star and Hall of Famer, Big Ron Shaw. Thanks for having me, Ron.
Chris, nice to meet you. First time here, and I hope you're enjoying the weather down here. I understand you're from Pittsburgh, huh?
I am, and it is sure a lot nicer here.
Well, I'll tell you, Pittsburgh is a great town. Of course, it's on the other side of the state from where I was born in Philadelphia, and I enjoyed many times wrestling down there at the Civic Arena, even having one of my biggest upsets there in Pittsburgh.
Civic Arena is no longer with us.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah. Now, you were in the WWE history books and recently inducted into the Hall of Fame. That must have been a great honor for you.
It certainly was. You know, I was there last September, and in Boston, actually, and they inducted me into the IWF Hall of Fame. And you know, the IWF is a long history of years of wrestling promotion and so forth, and it was a great honor. And I was also inducted along with Johnny Valiant, Luscious Johnny Valiant, and Hercules Hernandez, and a lot of the people who are in there, also in the WWE Hall of Fame, like Big John Studd, Killer Kowalski himself, and a lot of other big names. So I'm really happy and glad, and it's a great thing for me.
Truly a great honor.
Absolutely, yes.
At what point in your life did you decide, hey, I want to be a pro wrestler? And training for that, I assume, had to not be easy. Difficult.
Well, I was actually 8 years old. I was 8 years old and thought I wanted to do this. You know, right from the beginning. You know, I saw my first match in Camden Convention Hall in New Jersey, and ever since then, I was watching wrestling on the TV. Mm-hmm. I was starting to go to the matches during my high school years down at the Philadelphia Arena, and I found on TV there was a nightly news show. I think it was called Evening Magazine, where Killer Kowalski was on there, and he had his wrestling school, and that's how I contacted Kowalski, and came up a few months later and trained for 16 weeks, and got my start in the WWF right away.
Was he like a mentor, Killer Kowalski?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Killer Kowalski was a main eventer for 30 years, and a great trainer. A great trainer he was, and I enjoyed that experience. It was hard knocks, but it was a great experience.
Oh, good. Now, over the years, you've obviously wrestled all the big names. One that I noticed I haven't seen written anywhere or any matches is Bruno Sammartino, who's, of course, from my part of the world in Pittsburgh,
mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's right.
Now, is that something you miss out on never wrestling him, or was he even wrestling at the time you entered?
At the time, when I was in Kowalski's school, he was still wrestling. He was having actually a big feud with Larry Zbyszko. And he actually left the WWF at the same time I did, and this is where we went to the IWF. Okay, so I was there in the IWF, and he was for 2 years. And then we came back to the WWF in early 1984, and he came back as a color commentator. Okay, and I obviously came back and I was wrestling and competing and so forth. But there was very few times that he was stepping back into the ring, and it was just bad timing. I never had a chance to step into the ring with him. But that certainly would have been the icing on the cake, is wrestling Bruno Sammartino.
Now, you've had a chance to meet him?
Well, I've had a chance to ride with him in the car, talk to him, and you know, I would even, he was, as a matter of fact, he was even interviewing me on the IWF tapings in Allentown, Pennsylvania, several times. And I only wish that I could get a hold of some of those videos. They're out there somewheres. I'd love to get a hold of them, but who knows? Who knows if we'll ever see those.
So I did have a chance to look at your website, Big Ron Shaw, WWF.com, and I mean, it's full of a lot of good stuff, including there's videos, stories, the various radio shows and podcasts you've run. I'd be amiss not to say there was the one show, Monty and Pharaoh, that kind of stuck out to me a little more than the others.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this question? A lot of people say pro wrestling scripted. Was that interview real with Monty and Pharaoh?
Unfortunately, I have to say, yeah, all these wrestling podcasts and so forth, they are legitimate. And you know, I've done a lot of podcasts, and I did his show, and obviously you saw it. There was a lot of confrontation going back and forth. It was, partly my fault, partly his fault. And, the only thing that held things together on that show was his partner, the Pharaoh. Okay, the man's a decent guy and so forth. And the show was what it ended up being. Okay, it was controversial. I told the man in the beginning of the show, you have one of the most controversial shows on TV. Okay, but that's not what I want to talk about. Okay, the viewers can go watch this Big Ron Shaw on the Monty and Pharaoh show, and they can judge for themselves how I was treated. But what I want to talk about was a show that he did maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was invited on the two-man power trip of wrestling with John Paz, a great guy, had some huge names on his show. One of those, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Okay, and I right off the start started talking about that experience I had with Monty on the show. And look, I may have said some things. I maybe made fun of his hat, called it a Jimmy Durante hat and stuff like that. I guess it was just starting to get the best of me, because it left a bad taste in my mouth being on his show. And what had happened was that a show that he did, he put that segment of John Paz's show on his show. Okay. And Monty, he's watching this right now, and I know it because I'm in his head right now. Monty, it must have been a bad night to have some good guests on your show, right? You had to have 2 foul-mouthed Long Island sanitation workers on your show, okay, to throw the F-bomb around. You tried to belittle me on your show, but let me tell you something. It didn't work. I went out to my country club the next day, shot one of the best rounds of golf in my life, won $385 from my friends. See, Monty, golf is a rich man's game. It's not for you. Okay? Now, another thing. I was on a show prior to his, James Romero's Wrestling Shoot Interviews. Okay. What a classy guy, okay? What a classy guy. Even classy Freddie Blassie would have took him to his chest to give the guy a hug because he was so full of class, and such great, classy people that follow his show, okay? When I do a show, I come back 30 days later, and at the bottom there's all types of comments, okay, from people. On James Romero's show, people are commenting, geez, Ron Shaw looks like he could still compete in the WWE. Doesn't look his age. He looks like he's in great shape. Now, on Monty's show, where there's some real losers that follow that show, okay, a bunch of dinglings, not all, but some of the comments, I was telling Monty, I said, I'm being inducted into the Hall of Fame in September. One lady comments, she goes, well, he'll never be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Well, my answer to that lady is, you know what? You'll never have a husband or a boyfriend because you're probably 500 pounds with a complexion like a box of Juicy Fruits. Secondly, another guy, okay, a real genius himself. He says, Ron Shaw's gold necklace looks like his grandmother's. Well, pal, my answer to you is that you don't have $3,000 of gold hanging around your neck, $6,000 watches hanging around. The only thing you got around your neck is a dirt ring from digging ditches all day, okay? Another genius. I'm here in Florida. I got a beautiful tan. Wouldn't you say so?
You sure do.
Okay. I love having a tan. I love going to the pool all day and having a great tan because I look fantastic in it. Now, one guy says, well, Ron Shaw's got a yellow tan. Yellow lives matter. Well, the only thing that should matter to that guy is that he get up in the morning, do his job, and clean out those urinals. Okay? That's his job. Now, that's the kind of classy people that Monty has on his show. A lot of people emailed me after those foul-mouthed sanitation workers you had on your show, and they said, they're going to stop watching your show. They're jumping ship like a bunch of rats from an abandoned ship. Okay? But I said no. I said, it's not fair to the Pharaoh. That's the man, he's the glue of that show. He's the glue of that show. He holds that show together while Monty just sits over there and causes trouble. You know, he's been punched in the face so many times that he's starting to get a cauliflower nose. All right? Monty. He's been punched in the face by his guests. You see him? You even see him squirming back and forth, left and right. That's the telltale sign of a hemorrhoid the size of a bell pepper. All right? So Monty, let me tell you something. All this can be avoided. All you got to do is apologize to me. Fly me into New York, put me up in a beautiful hotel, take me out for a beautiful steak dinner, and I require a bottle of my favorite wine, 1946 Sauvignon. Then bring me over to your show and apologize to me. And then you don't have to get on your knees and beg forgiveness. Just apologize. Show your fans that you're a big man. You know, he might have been hurt when I was on the John Paz's show. I insulted that hat. That's his trademark hat. And maybe I should have talked, that way to him. He's a sensitive little man. But I did find one of his press photos that he likes to send out to his fans.
Understood.
Okay? I happened to get a hold of it. Thank goodness I did. What do you think of that?
You're kidding me, right?
I'm not kidding you. Look, that's his signature hat right here.
In there?
That's Monty right there. Look at that signature hat. That's him right there. Okay? You know who he looks like, Chris? He looks like that guy that used to be on the Jackie Gleason show, Crazy Guggenheim.
Oh, jeez.
That's what, yeah. Look, did you invite me on your show to interrupt me?
I did not.
All right, then let me talk.
I'll let you talk.
All right? I'm tired of you sitting here, like you got to do a number 2, brother. Now, secondly, or thirdly, is that Monty said that, when I started doing this show, I don't have the face for television. Let me tell you something. You don't even have the face for a radio, pal. That's how ugly you are. Now, all this can be avoided, all this war of words that we've been having, but I want to let you know one thing, Monty. I respect you for one little thing only. And we discussed it before I came on your show, that you, myself, and the Pharaoh, we know one thing. Our political views are exactly the same.
Well,
we know that this country has been brought down to its knees in the last 2 years. But that's where we have some hope, okay?
Well, I was going to ask you, actually. I never hear you talk about politics. Is that about as far as you're going to go with it?
Well, you want to know my political views? I think you're already getting a vibe, right? Let me tell you something. Last year, I had a guy come over from a newspaper a couple towns over, and we were doing an interview. The first thing he was asking me is that about my political views. And I started telling him, and look, I was knocking this administration. And he says, aren't you being a little rough on our commander-in-chief? And I right away said, I can see you're obviously a Biden fan. Okay? And I said, you know what? This interview is over. I said, I can either help you out through the front door or the second-story window. Which one you want, pal? Fortunately, he picked the front door. We didn't have that interview.
They never have.
A man is supposed to be here, be quiet. You ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. Don't give me your views. You're interviewing me. But you want to hear what they are? Okay, let me tell you something. Our president is the dumbest, stupidest man in political history. He's never done nothing for this country except put in his pockets, okay? And these days, he's got a vice president who's a laughing hyena, Kamala, and she's just as dumb as he is. But if you look, gas prices have doubled. Inflation's the highest it's ever been. Our people in our country are working paycheck to paycheck while this guy's lining his pockets with the Chinese regime. Okay? The communist Chinese regime. And his son, who's a bum, he's in the same category as him. But this country is about making it great again. Wars are starting. Everything's are flaring up because they see this guy, how weak he is. That pretty much sums up what I got to say in my politics, because this world right now is a mess.
Okay. I think you answered it. Well, let me end it. I don't know. Do you have any other shows coming up? Anything you'd like to promote?
I do. On Valentine's Day, I've got my second appearance on Dan and Benny in the Ring. I'm looking forward to that. And then in mid-March, on the 20th, we're taping this on the 19th. I'll be on the Wrestling Zone, the Wrestle Zone, with Professor Rick Del Santo. And I'm looking forward to these 2 shows coming up. I think there's a couple more coming up. I haven't actually committed to them yet, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I'd be amiss if I didn't lastly ask you this. There is a Super Bowl coming up. Philadelphia Eagles are in the Super Bowl, and you are from Philadelphia.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, here's my thoughts on that. I never was a football fan, professional football fan.
Really?
I really am ashamed to say I'm from Philadelphia because of what the political air is like in that state. And no, I don't follow football. I really couldn't care less about football. You want to ask me about golf? Go right ahead and ask me about golf. I'll be here for the next 3, 4, 5 hours, okay?
Well, I don't want to hold you up.
Okay, then don't ask.
Big Ron Shaw, it's been a great pleasure having you invite us into your beautiful home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chris.
Have a good day.
All right, bud.